Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, Israel remembering the devastation of the Holocaust as the nation comes to a standstill to look back and promise never again. Today's special events coming as Israel faces the potential threat of a nuclear Iran. We're going to hear from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his warning about Iran and the latest developments on the talks over Iran's nuclear program. Here at home, President Donald Trump's task force to stop bias against Christian goes to work. As the Attorney General says, the government must protect religious freedom and not discriminate against Christians. And protecting young people from a dangerous online crime, sextortion. We're going to hear from a father who lost his son and see what's being done to put an end to this dangerous scam. All those stories and more right now on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
We begin this busy Thursday in Israel as it commemorates Holocaust Remembrance Day, where Israelis remember those who died in the worst genocide in history against the Jewish people at the hands of Nazi Germany. And it comes in the shadow of a potential threat from a nuclear Iran. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell brings us the story. He reports from Jerusalem.
For 2 minutes, sirens wail throughout Israel. The nation comes to a standstill to remember, reflect, and pledge never again. The Holocaust affects nearly every family in Israel and the Jewish world.
I think about my grandfather. He was a Holocaust survivor from Stanislav of Poland, and he was hidden in a barn by righteous Gentiles.
My grandparents, to my regret, were killed, and I don't think we should ever forget what happened.
Israel's Holocaust Remembrance Day began here at Yad Vashem, Israel's Holocaust Memorial, where 6 torches were lit to remember the 6 million Jews who perished in the Holocaust. 6 Holocaust survivors lit the torches, each with a story of how they survived. This year's Remembrance Day took place 80 years after the end of World War II, and in the shadow of October 7th, the worst atrocity against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared Israel survived that day and will defeat its enemies.
Those who feared that after the October 7 massacre we would face another Holocaust saw how we turned the tables. On this Holocaust Day, I promise, the military pressure on Hamas will continue. We will destroy all its capabilities. We will return all our hostages. We will defeat Hamas, and we will prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. To fight vigorously against the fanatical regimes that threaten the entire world and to do so in a timely manner, this is the main lesson of the Holocaust.
Netanyahu also warned of the threat from a nuclear Iran.
The extremist regime in Iran is a threat to the fate and existence, not only to our future, but to the fate and future of all human society. This is what will happen if it obtains nuclear weapons.
Israel has suggested it will attack Iran's nuclear facilities unless Iran voluntarily destroys them. However, U.S. negotiators seeking a deal to stop Iran's pursuit of a nuclear weapon are willing to let them have a civil nuclear program.
If Iran wants a civil nuclear program, they can have one just like many other countries in the world have one, and that is they import enriched material.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio says Iran will have to stop enriching uranium, the main material in a nuclear bomb.
But there's a pathway to a civil, peaceful nuclear program if they want one. But if they insist on enriching, then they will be the only country in the world that doesn't have a weapons program, quote unquote, but is enriching. And so I think that's problematic.
In light of the Holocaust and the shadow of October 7th, it remains to be seen if Israel will feel the need to destroy what they consider another existential threat to their survival.
And to continue our coverage, Chris Mitchell joins us now from Jerusalem. So, Chris, what is the reaction there in Israel to the talk of a civilian nuclear program? Is that a big step?
It's a big change, Ephraim. Right now, they believe that's a compromise that would carry significant risk, knowing that Iran has a history of nuclear ambitions. It also has a long record of a lack of transparency. What they want here in Israel, and this has been made plain by Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, is the Libyan model. Goes back to 2003 when then Muammar Gaddafi was willing to let the international community basically destroy his nuclear program. Just a few weeks ago, they were talking about destroying the entire nuclear infrastructure. That was it seemed to be what the Trump administration was saying. But they're questioning now here in Israel why the change, why the talks. We know President Trump does want peace. He doesn't want war. He wants Iran to be a great nation. But some believe that here in the Middle East that the regime has to be overthrown to be a great nation. It's been a tyranny since 1979, imprisoning and killing many of its population. And so that's what a number of people here would like: destroy their nuclear infrastructure and see freedom for the Islamic Republic.
Prime Minister Netanyahu again warned of the danger from a nuclear Iran, but is there concern right now that Israel might be missing its best window of opportunity when it comes to wiping out Iran's nuclear weapons capabilities?
I think they feel like right now it's a unique window of opportunity. Right now, the so-called ring of fire that Iran had been building around Israel to destroy Israel is collapsing. That would include their proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, have all been defeated or degraded. Syria itself is no longer an Iranian asset, no longer the ability to take large weapon systems as a conduit from Iran to Lebanon. Their air defenses have been weakened in Iran and Syria. And so right now we have the Trump administration, as opposed to the Biden administration, was definitely opposed to a nuclear military strike. And also you have Iran's internal economic struggles. And so all of these factors, they feel here in Israel a wonderful opportunity, and they don't want to miss this window by dragging on these negotiations. And what happens, we're watching that answer unfold, Ephraim, in real time.
Despite the ongoing nuclear talks, is Iran taking steps to prepare itself in case there is a military strike against them?
Well, I think they're doing that both on the defensive and the offensive spheres. Defensively, they're reinforcing tunnel complexes near one of their main nuclear sites, and that's Natanz. On the offensive, they recently unveiled a new quote-unquote missile city where they have thousands of ballistic missiles. Even though the last two attacks by Iran last year in April and October, they failed miserably. They're also replacing some of their air defenses that had been degraded or destroyed by Israel. Part of their strategy is to keep talking while they prepare offensively and defensively. So that's why many people are concerned that Iran, as it has done in the past, just keeps dragging out negotiations so they can prepare for either a military strike or to get a nuclear weapon.
Let's shift gears now a bit. How deep is the connection there in Israel to the Holocaust?
It's just so deep, Ephraim. Emily and Elaine there in our report. Our CBN correspondent, Julie Stahl, was down there near one of the streets here in Jerusalem and just randomly picked up some people. Emily, 18-year-old, her grandfather was saved by righteous Gentiles. Then Elaine, had moved here from New Jersey. Her grandparents had been killed. So you can almost ask anybody on the streets of Jerusalem or anywhere here in Israel, and you can find some connection to the Holocaust, some family connection. And it really does go through the generations. This memory of the Holocaust is being passed down from one generation to another. When you consider that 1/3 of Jewry was eliminated during the Holocaust, it just affects not only here in Israel, but the Jewish world worldwide. Such a tragedy of what might have been the many people that were lost to the world. And yet, despite that, Israel became a state in 1948, just 3 years after the Holocaust. And many people here make the point it's not because of the Holocaust, but in spite of it.
Indeed, we hear the pledge, never again. But do people look at Iran and the growing anti-Semitism worldwide and fear another massive assault on Jews could happen again?
Very much so. In fact, I was at that Yad Vashem ceremony last night. I talked to a French couple that had just moved a few years to Israel. They came to Israel to make Aliyah, but also to escape. They said what's happening in France right now is similar to the 1930s. They're expecting it to get worse. And that's why many Jews, in a story we just covered last month, many French Jews are coming to escape the persecution and the danger. Many people have just seen this global assault on the Jewish people since October 7th. But as you said, the pledge for many here is never again.
Indeed. Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, thank you so much for your insight, and we look forward to hearing from you in the days ahead this week. Thank you so much. Coming up, here in the United States, President Donald Trump's task force to protect Christians against bias and discrimination from the government begins its work. We're going to hear what the Attorney General and the President himself are saying about this important mission. We've got the story for you when we come back. You're watching CBN NewsWatch. When President Donald Trump signed an executive order to launch the Anti-Christian Bias Task Force, he was fulfilling a promise made to millions of supporters. In that order, he promised to protect the religious freedoms of Americans and end what he saw as anti-Christian weaponization of government. The president appointed Attorney General Pam Bondi to take the lead role. And Tuesday, she conducted a news conference with various cabinet members present to discuss wiping out bias against Christians. CBN's White House correspondent Kelly Wright brings us the story from Washington.
Attorney General Pam Bondi hosted her first anti-Christian bias task force meeting at the Justice Department. She focused on efforts that are currently underway to end the bias throughout the federal government. Members of the task force include Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and other members of the cabinet, also individuals who have been impacted by anti-Christian bias. Attorney General Bondi says they are focused on identifying unlawful anti-Christian policies, practices, or conduct taking place in government.
As President Trump has stated, the Biden administration engaged in an egregious pattern of targeting peaceful Christians while ignoring violent anti-Christian offenses.
Some of the anti-Christian bias offenses include arrest of Christians peacefully protesting outside abortion clinics. Bondi says the FBI even spied on some Catholic churches. Also, she cited President Biden declaring last Easter as a day of transgender visibility. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche says all forms of bias against any religion must be stopped.
Supporting the free expression of faith is not just a constitutional principle. It is something that all forms of civil government should be encouraging. At its core, the executive order we're here to talk about today affirms a fundamental truth. Every individual has the freedom to choose their religious faith. And once made, that choice should never be subject to discrimination or bias from our government.
President Trump's senior advisor, Paula White of the White House Faith Office, helped organize the president's observance of Easter. During an Easter dinner at the White House, he mentioned the task force.
We're standing up for a persecuted Christian and so many Christians that have been persecuted all over the world. So horrible what's happened. And defending religious liberty. We had nobody fighting for our Christians in other parts of the world that were being so incredibly destroyed, killed.
Attorney General Bondi acknowledges the mission of the task force on anti-Christian bias is daunting but necessary in order to protect the inalienable rights of every American to worship God free of any discrimination. In Washington, Kelly Wright, CBN News.
Still ahead, it is the fastest growing cybercrime in the country, and it has deadly consequences. We're going to find out what's being done to stop sextortion right after this. Cybercrime against teens has moved far beyond bullying. Authorities report a rise in online extortion of minors. Senator Marsha Blackburn is working on a law that would protect young people from becoming victims. CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Michelle London spoke with the senator and a grieving father who's fighting back.
In the push to pass the Kids Online Safety Act, dozens of parents are sharing heartbreaking stories of losing their children to online dangers. They include John DeMay, whose son took his own life after being targeted on Instagram.
He was kind of the popular, handsome, well-respected. He had a very diverse group of friends.
John describes his 17-year-old son, Jordan, as a fun-loving, all-American teenager. So John cherished every moment they spent together.
He and I hunted and fished together. We enjoyed spending time on our boat. We liked to travel. He was such a good kid. He was easy to raise.
Just months away from graduation, the honor roll student, homecoming king, and all-conference basketball player had a bright future ahead. That is, until the morning of March 25th, 2022, when tragedy struck without warning.
I looked out the window and his car was still in the driveway. So I thought that was really odd because he should have been at school in 15, 20 minutes already. And so I went down to his bedroom and I opened up his door and I found that he had shot himself in his bedroom.
Earlier that morning at 3:45 a.m., as John and his wife slept in the room above, Jordan received an Instagram message from what appeared to be an attractive woman named Danny Roberts. Law enforcement records show Jordan began to follow the page, and after messaging back and forth, he was persuaded to send an intimate photo. Within moments, he'd fallen victim to a dangerous extortion scheme.
It was a high-pressure extortion. They wanted him to pay $1,000 or they're going to send it to all of his friends and family and ruin his life. They were building screenshots and making it look like they were sending it to his teammates' mothers and friends. So in his mind, real time, he believed that they were sending it out because he wasn't getting the money fast enough.
Less than 6 hours after the Instagram conversation began, Jordan killed himself. Authorities later charged 2 Nigerian brothers as part of the investigation. Jordan's case became the first successful prosecution of Nigerians for what's now known as sextortion. According to the FBI, this is the fastest growing cybercrime in the country.
There seems to be this underlying assumption that a lot of parents have that my kid is too smart. They're never going to fall for something like that. Or, oh, I'm a good parent.
Melissa Henson of Parents Television and Media Council says, while parents are often blindsided by these scams, there are preventative steps they can take.
First of all, you need to establish with your children from a very, very young age, they are not allowed to have any communication or contact with people online that they don't know in the real world.
Next, Henson strongly suggests for parents to work together to delay giving their child a cell phone for as long as possible. And
even if you do allow a laptop or an iPad or a smartphone in your home, do not allow them to be alone in a bedroom or a bathroom with any internet-connected devices.
That means only allowing use of these devices in public areas of the house.
That way you can peer over their shoulder periodically, see who they're talking to, say, hey, that's a name I don't recognize.
Last October, Instagram launched its own campaign to help teens and parents spot sextortion scams. The platform added a Take It Down tool, which prevents a teen's sensitive images from being shared online, and a crisis text line for teens to chat with a live agent.
We see it every day, children that are cyberbullied, children that are pulled into sextortion.
Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn tells CBN News so many common cases nationwide make safety a top priority.
In the physical world, there are laws that prevent you from selling alcohol, tobacco, having kids enter into contracts, pushing them into pornography. There are laws against that, but in the virtual space, there is nothing.
That's why she reached across the political aisle to get something done.
The Kids Online Safety Act, which Senator Blumenthal and I have worked on for the last few years, and that puts the responsibility on these social media platforms. And anyone that says, oh, this is an infringement of free speech, no, it's not an infringement of free speech to have a law that says a child can't drive before they're 16, a child cannot be sold alcohol or tobacco, a child cannot be exposed to pornography. Those are protections for children.
While seeing his son's extortionist go to jail is a victory, it can never fill the void in John's heart. Instead, a profound passion has ignited inside him. John now makes it his full-time mission to travel across the country sharing Jordan's story.
It starts with being present as a parent or as a family and everything. I mean, you have to really pay attention to who you're giving access, you're giving your kids access to the entire planet right here. And you have to be comfortable with that.
He's joined forces with Blackburn and countless others to ensure that no one else faces the same pain. Work will need to be done beyond the Kids Online Safety Act to tackle this problem. For example, the Communications Decency Act protects tech companies from legal liability for third-party content. They can't be sued in cases like Jordan's. There are calls to remove this immunity by reforming the law, which passed back in 1996 before the rise of social media. Michelle London, CBN News, Washington.
We'll be back with an encouraging word for your day ahead. Stay with us.
Introducing a brand new way to start your morning. Get your daily quick start from CBN News. A quick read on the important news of the day delivered right to your inbox. Stay current on breaking news, politics, and entertainment. Discover how God is moving around the world and here at home. Plus, get exclusive stories and daily scripture encouragement just for you. Stay informed. Go to quickstart.news and subscribe today. Download the CBN News app. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Watch CBN News Channel Live. CBN News, because truth matters. Get the CBN News app today.
Welcome back. Time now for your Thursday Thankful. And today I invite you to join me in this prayer of gratitude. Father, thank you for all that you have given to me and all that you have kept from me. You know what's best for me. I don't always understand the why behind your way, but I do know you are calling me to have faith in what I don't always understand. So I trust you. And with that word, may we all say amen and amen. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. You can always find more of our programs on the CBN News channel. You can find them there at any time, as well as online. That address is cbnnews.com. Take a moment. Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us, newswatch@cbn.com. And, of course, you can reach out and touch us on Facebook, Instagram, and X. We'll see you tomorrow.